I prayed in the streets. I prayed in the saloons. I prayed in the toilets. It don't matter where, so long as he gets that prayer. Shit! Ah, it's the ticket, boy. Just open your heart and let it flow. What will matter? As long as you get that love behind him, don't be frightened, son.
I baptize thee, my brother, in the name of the Father,
And you shall be heard.
and the Holy Spirit.
Don't be frightened, son. Don't run from Jesus.
Welcome back to the Harbor. I'm your host, the Kino Cowboy. I'm with my boys like usual, Scott and Casher. Today we're talking about Midnight Cowboy, starring the incredible Jon Voight, and got my Coke Zero because Casher bullied me last episode about being a city liberal with my sparkling water. So got that in order. I wanted to revisit this movie because it was one of those that you hear it's like a classic and you check it out and you're like, yeah, that was good. And then you forget about it. And then it creeps on you over a while. And then you're like, I need to revisit this movie. And so you write it into your 2024 season of The Harbor so you can revisit it and then talk about it. And this movie is a certified classic. And I want to know what you guys thought, if this was your first time or if you'd seen it before.
This is my third time watching this movie. The first time I watched this movie, I was 13 years old and did not understand the themes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Independent Film Channel. The second time I watched this was right around college. And I showed it to a girl I was dating at the time. And I don't know if she particularly liked it.
Yeah, are you still dating?
But no. No.
Well,
But then this third time, it holds up for me. This has always been one of my favorites in terms of gritty New York shit. It's like this, and what was that cartoon one we watched? I can't remember.
Heavy Traffic.
Heavy Traffic. I almost said the other one. I couldn't remember because I've seen the other one too, and I couldn't remember which one we did on the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's like IRL Heavy Traffic.
Yeah, late 60s, early 70s, grimy New York rules.
Yeah, it's the shit. It's disgusting. It's incredibly diverse. And it's violent and it's very in your face. And that's kind of like the whole point of this is going from Texas to that and getting the culture shock.
yeah, this is my first time seeing the movie, so it's coming at a different perspective. And I didn't realize that sex work was the central of this. All I knew was gritty New York and the hollowness of chasing the American dream. That's about what I knew.
Yeah.
And I'd been putting this off, and I knew we'd eventually cover it on this podcast. So this is a classic, and I can tell why it's a classic. It's well made, but I see, if you divorce it from all of its context and historical context, I can see, Adrian, why you would have your initial reaction of okay, that was good, and then not think about it, but then it creeps back into your memory, because this is obviously one of the texts of an entire subgenre of gritty New York films. And this pre-Taxi Driver. So, and obviously, part of Taxi Driver's DNA, or any of your gritty New York movies, up to Kids, which we've covered on here.
Yeah.
So you do have to evaluate in the context of its time, because I thought this was shot at least in the 70s, but this was 69. So this was earlier than I thought. I didn't realize it was still the 60s. So the fact that some people might be hanging on to this Leave It to Beaver America in the suburbs, and then this movie comes out and there's unabashed gay sex, it's maybe abashed. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And is that a word? Abashed? Unabashed is a word. Is abashed?
I mean, I would think
we're gonna
You guys
make it a
know what I
word.
mean.
We can make it a word.
You
Here,
can make it a word right now. I'm not gonna start doing bits yet, but yeah, there's, I don't know. I imagine you see a movie called Midnight Cowboy. You see a guy dressed in the cowboy hat. I could imagine somebody just seeing the poster for this, seeing a dude in a cowboy hat, going with their family to the drive-in and being appalled. Granted, this was an X-rated
Yeah.
movie at the time, so you couldn't do that. Maybe on a date or something and not realizing it. Family. Only X-rated movie to get an Academy Award
Yeah, that's the thing.
until I make my Caligula sequel.
Yeah, no. That's the thing is like normally an X rating, which is NC-17 now, would be like a death sentence, but this movie was so good that it just like transcended the stopping power of the X rating and landed itself an Academy Award, which is insane and awesome for this kind of film.
Man, yeah, it's the most like obscene, like odd couple drama of all time. Like you get, your main characters in and they're complete almost opposites of each other. They both do things that are kind of low lifey. But to like you talked about the Leave It to Beaver thing, even Joe Buck has a very Leave It to Beaver mindset in terms of like what he's about to go do.
He can't spell the word money.
There's a dark undercurrent to him that is really fascinating that really comes out later on in the film.
Like through the dreamscapes and things like
yeah,
that.
he's
It's
pushing it down
insane.
constantly.
Yeah.
That's the real power of the film, I feel. I do want to say, I want to preface it with overall, how do you think the film handles homosexuality and the concept of gay for pay?
It's complicated. I did learn that the director is gay, which helps. I don't know about the author of the novel it's based on. My feeling is that Joe is probably bisexual, or has some latent homosexuality.
Absolutely.
Like he definitely is not just straight. Although he does like women, I think as well.
I do also think he's sexually traumatized too.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Like horribly sexually traumatized, and I think that expresses itself throughout like the film and those flashbacks, but also in how he looks at sex. Like not sex is for a lot of people not supposed to be something like this, and usually only comes out in terms of like hypersexuality when there's trauma that's undealt.
Yeah, sex is transactional, sex is validation. You definitely get the sense even that he didn't really have any, he's pretty much raised by his grandmother. And we don't know how active she was in his life, or if she was just kind of taking care of him, leaving him money, leaving him home at home. I feel like he was left money for TV dinners a lot. That's in one flashback, it's mentioned, and was stuck in front of the boob tube, which is how he got all of these highfalutin ideas, watched too much Bonanza. The first shot of the movie, we see in the daytime, it's not active, but a drive-through movie screen in small town Texas with Western gunfire and audio effects playing over it. So we're immediately getting the idea of, I don't know, that's what this world is, and that's the world this guy's been living in, away from I don't know, he's been living in the heartland, but away from the heart of America in New York. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sheltered in his own way. And so what amazes me is that I think there's people who still do this, who will still just move to New York or somewhere and just be like, I'll figure it out. I'll make it.
Fucking crazy.
Oh yeah.
That's so
yeah,
crazy.
Definitely.
People do. I talked to somebody I knew from New York, and they would talk about it. People would just move there with no plan, or like without much money.
I was reading into that today, actually. Like New York around this time was perfectly feasible to do that. It wasn't this massive. There was like apparently the economy in New York was really bad, so people were able to move in there for the cheap and survive off pretty cheaply.
Yeah, it wasn't $16,000 for a fucking one bedroom.
No, I'm sure it wasn't the word gentrification didn't exist yet. But it's I don't know how many good jobs were there if you were just
I mean, a lot of people, it's different. What do you say? Good jobs, like jobs that we think of as bad were probably just as good back then.
I'm talking living wage is what I'm saying.
Well, I'm saying living wage. Like I'm sure Joe could have gone to New York and gotten a similar dishwashing job and been able to afford an apartment.
He had that chance and he passed on it.
And he passed on it, yeah. Instead of having to whore himself out to old ladies, which is, the dream, it's one of those things. It's like, do you want to subjugate yourself to something that feels lesser than what you think you are? And I think that's a big deal, is that fucking Joe has to realize that he's not, above the work that he was given.
No, but he wants the opportunity to be externally validated because he's his whole life. It feels like he's been pining after some sort of validation from his grandmother. Maybe he found it when he was in the army. Um,
Uh, or like, he's been emasculated quite a bit watching what I assume is his girlfriend being, you know, trigger warning, raped,
Yeah.
uh, and him himself being assaulted by that group of like manly cowboy men. I'm sure the emasculation makes him want to seek validation through pleasuring as many women as possible for money and being, the tip top cowboy man.
Yeah, it's that psychological element and how it's how it's shown through the edits of the film that makes it way ahead of its time with
mhm.
its style. And it really was one of those movies that helped usher in that new wave of American cinema that kind of revitalized everything. And it's like we went from that and went on, to like The Godfather and Taxi Driver, stuff like that. It's very forward thinking with its ideas and also how it presents that through the lens of film. And I like that some of those sequences start to meld with his dreams, and now you're not even sure what part of that's fiction and what part of that is reality. And some of that doesn't really matter because, uh, often dreams, nightmares can really bring up a lot of things you weren't even realizing are still present in your mind that are scarring you, mental scars. And like, so when we get more and more info about him, it's like, okay, so his girlfriend was assaulted, and maybe he was assaulted, maybe his girlfriend left him because he was gay or something, or we don't really know. And maybe he was the one who feels insecure about, maybe he fooled around with guys or something and got caught or something. I don't know. There's just multiple possibilities of what these few images could contain or what they might even mean.
Right. He was assaulted because you see that in one image. They're
Yeah.
spreading their legs, and it looks like they're shoving a broomstick or doing some like
Yeah, but it's
Abu
like, why
Ghraib
would they do that? Probably because they caught him doing something gay.
probably, and
Or because he was with Anne when they assaulted her,
Yeah,
as well,
maybe.
which is what I think, because I do think he was present during it, and was assaulted at the same time, as sort of like a, well, yeah, who's gonna, like, if you say something, you're gonna be, you know, a
yeah,
social pariah.
it's since we're talking about rape in this cast, rape is about power at the end of the day. That's
Yeah.
what it's about. And it can be
Um,
as simple as that. People, I mean, it's a mob mentality of people who want power over the situation. And again,
uh,
but yeah, I think the idea of like, oh, she's having sex with that half a um let's, assault them basically.
I do want to say, in regards to that scene, that flashback dream, the filming of that sounds fucking horrific.
Yeah, absolutely.
Apparently, Jennifer Salt said that initially they gave her a nude colored bodysuit to wear, but it was too hot. So she took it off. And when she stripped it off, people were like seeing her bare ass. And she said it was humiliating. And she said, and this kid was just on top of me and all over me, and it hurt, and no one gave a fuck. And it was supposed to look like I was being raped, and I was screaming, and I was screaming, and it was traumatic in a way that couldn't be acknowledged.
Yeah.
Um, and all I can think of hearing that is fucking Perfect Blue,
Yeah.
and that scene that's in that film. And it's just like, I wonder if Satoshi Kon may have heard a story similar to like that, or this specific story, because it sounds
Maybe. Never know.
nearly
People
exact.
definitely dissociate, and it's entirely possible he saw this film. This is
This is one of Akira Kurosawa's top 100.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is influenced so many people. Yeah,
This is definitely, yeah, it's to me more now on this watch, it's very much a man dealing with his closeted homosexuality. And I think that comes to light at the scene where he's sleeping with that chick after the party. And he can't get it up. And that's only when she teases him at the idea of that he might be gay. That's when he's able to prove it to himself. So obviously there's some psychological damage there.
obviously there. It's
And
kind of the sexual equivalent of calling Marty McFly chicken.
that's more contrived though. That just comes up in the sequels. It was never
that's incredibly contrived.
But you know,
but it is sort of a do it you won't. He's like, ah.
It is kind of that. It's like proving it to yourself almost. Be like, oh, she's calling me gay. I'll show her gay.
I'm sure, yeah. Gay for that vagina.
With Rico, I'm gonna call him Rico out of respect. Well, Rico Ratso, do you guys think that, I know he says a lot of homophobic shit on here, but I think that is a product of the time. You're gonna watch this again. The F slur is, prominent throughout it. But I think he seems to know who Joe is, especially when it comes to like sexuality.
I think he sees a little bit more than maybe.
Yeah, I think he's more, especially when he talks about the cowboy shtick, and he basically calls him out. It's like old ladies barely even like that anymore.
Yeah,
it's just
pure overcompensating. I think Rizzo maybe, or Ratso maybe down on his luck and kind of stuck in this situation, but he knows what's up, man. And
which I have to say, that's one of Dustin Hoffman's best performances ever.
Yeah. That's crazy how much older they make him look in this 2 years after The Graduate.
I was gonna say that. He looks so greasy in this movie.
Emaciated.
Do you think the Muppet Rizzo the Rat was named?
I don't know. I was thinking so. I was thinking maybe.
That's the
point. I just looked it up.
Rizzo the Rat.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because he comes from 1980. The Rizzo the Rat's from 1980.
I'm glad that we all thought the same thing there.
Well, I didn't think that. It was just like that's why he's got.
It has to be Rizzo. He even talks like Rizzo.
That's the point. Yeah.
Like, it's fucking hilarious.
I knew that before I even ever saw this movie.
Fair. I do have to say, dude, Ratso may be a bad person for the most part. At least turned into the bad person by what society and him, everything that's gone around him with his dad being illiterate shoe shiner. I do feel ultra fucking bad for him after his dream sequence of Miami.
Yeah.
After he sees just like this life, and it's always with Joe. Like, this is the first time that I think he's had someone really give a shit about him in well over a decade.
It's equally giving a shit about him, but also like this is the only time he's felt like this is my key out of here.
Yeah,
thing.
But he kept him around. Like it's like he kept him around though in his mindset. He was like, yeah, this is my only way out here. Most people would just ditch him if they were gonna use him that way, but like he's like, I want to go here and I want to continue my friendship and businessship with this man, because as much as they fought and talked shit to each other, they fucking they both cared about each other more than they would ever let on.
They kind of had to though. Like it was like together they might have a small chance of getting shit done, but separate they were both desolate. It was pretty bad. And but also is he truly a bad person? Because you bring up the nature versus nurture. Like he was thrust into this environment and born into this. Like, what chance did he have?
Well, it's like
an illiterate shoe shiner, basically.
Yeah.
I don't think either of them are inherently bad people. I don't think Rizzo.
I don't think either of them are bad. I think Rizzo is more rough and had to do things that are worse.
He rationalizes.
It's kind of like, I can't remember what film it was that we talked about where I talked about how it was the one we just did with What's his
Days of
name?
Heaven.
Yep. Where we talked about how one of them is bad because he has to be to survive, and the other one's bad because he was grown up and inherited and is the oppressor. I think, both of them are doing what they have to survive. So the length of how bad it is a lot less than what it could be.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I don't blame him for doing certain things to survive, but also like, well, I know he was sick, but like it's harder to feel bad for Joe because he could have taken some crummy dishwashing job and worked his way up. This the thing with the restaurants is like you can dishwash, do your time for 6 months, and then uh sooner rather than later, they're going to teach you how to cook because they're going to need an extra hand, and then you just work your way up. And it's not the best, but it beats washing dishes.
Do you think he may have been assaulted by his grandmother too?
That it's definitely in the books because the
Yeah,
very first uncomfortable flashback he has
it's him
is
being
him having to
massaging.
give her a massage.
And that kiss from behind where she like
Yeah,
that's an intimate move.
there is definitely something there, and I
It's
don't know how deep it goes.
Well, then you see him in bed with her and her lover, and he's drinking a beer, and it looks like there was like they're not like a lot of clothing on and things like that, and it's just every time it's something he goes to sleep, he's dreaming of that rape or something to do with his grandmother, and I can't help but think that that's fucking related.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and even that, even the things you say, even if there was no touching or anything, just being in that sort of weird sexual environment as a kid and kind of taking away some sexual autonomy because you're like being exposed to these things that you shouldn't be exposed to, like your grandmother and all of her various boyfriends, getting naked and doing the deed. Even that I think could be traumatizing, or at least
Yeah.
mess with you sexually growing up.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
I think it's a prominent part of why he's fucking old women.
Yeah.
Like, and
yeah.
he's not stylizing himself into being someone who's more attractive to younger women. I think that he's trying to be a gigolo for older women because that's what gets him going, maybe because of the assaults.
Well, and because he's chasing validation. Like it's such a cliche joke of like sex workers or strippers with daddy issues, trying to get approval, but like sex is validation at one level
Sex
or another.
absolutely is.
It
Yes.
100% is. And a lot of, hypersexual people, they either want to kind of, if they had a point where they were assaulted or something, they want to feel a sense of control through sexual encounters in adulthood, to kind of make up for the time where they didn't feel control,
Yeah.
or just people have hella attachment issues. And
Yeah.
we've all met those people.
No,
Um,
yeah, but yeah, that's one of the things that like really stood out to me is like I kept trying to figure out whether or not he was something happened between him and his
Definitely.
grandmother.
It's definitely something there.
You know,
It doesn't stop him from being hella charismatic, just like as himself. Like John Voight in this role is just immediately.
dude, I was sold when he walks on that bus and he turns on that radio and he goes like he knew that fucking gunshot was gonna come out and he like turns it on and he like puts his head down and walks past those women and it's just like this is the smoothest actor we've seen in a long time.
yeah, but he's so goofy about it because he's just copying whatever he's seen on TV.
I love it. I love it
It,
so much.
it's
Yeah.
it's not his own Riz. It's Riz he's copying from the Riz masters.
It's
Yes.
so endearing.
Also,
But
he
it's
has
also
such
like
big teeth, like almost buck teeth in this, but it's so endearing, and he has such this hometown hero. I mean, this is really one of the great screen pairings I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it's one of the best odd couples ever.
yeah,
yeah. And it's also like old America going off to die, basically. Just like he represents that old era and he's trying to make his way and with the American dream and the grass is always greener. It's that kind of thing. And it's just like,
Well, yeah, to speak on that, I mean, they even go to like a Warhol party. Like
yeah,
like
fucking beatniks.
Yeah, dude. So it's very much like him being thrown from like classic Americana straight into the counterculture,
Yeah.
which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, and bogarting a joint because he doesn't know it's weed in there. He thinks it's a cigarette.
Uppers or downers? Uppers or down? All right, we'll go uppers.
It's ridiculous.
That's the thing. No, the thing is like I hate when I hate trip out sequences in a lot of movies. They get really a lot of them lately just get really repetitive and silly and goofy and they're just really exaggerated. And I really like how well cut and put together the sequences. It really set the stage for that kind of.
Uh,
It reminded me of how good the psychedelic freak out sequences in oh
Beavis Butthead Do America.
no, that Japanese trans film we covered.
Oh, no, not Memories of Murder. That's racist to me.
What's it called? Throw away your books, rally in the streets.
No,
Yes.
no.
Funeral Parade of Roses.
Yes, Funeral Parade of Roses.
Oh, I forgot.
Similar sequences, I feel like counterculture shit going on, but also this guy is just never been around anything like this
Yeah.
ever.
It's one of my favorite like trip scenes, not for like the what we see, but for the way John Voight portrays that is incredibly fucking accurate. Watching him go up and being like messing with Ratso and then be like, oh, let's take a picture and then stopping for a picture and then watching Ratso fall down the stairs and not really have any. He's like empathetic for a second, but then as soon as the woman is like expressing how she feels or like throwing her energy out, he's immediately leeching onto that energy and just not caring, which is one of the sadder scenes of the film. But I think Voight did a really good job just expressing like how those types of things will make you feel.
He was probably method acting. I always
I gotta take ecstasy on the site, dude. It's like when I did whippets for our film.
Did they have ecstasy back then in the 60s?
Yeah. MDMA was starting to come up pretty prominently.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was no, he's definitely he's an empty shell in a way. Like he's just whatever people want to fill him with.
I mean, he's so young, he hasn't had a chance to.
I think he's like 28.
Is he 28?
Yeah, but like he's just lived in a small town in Texas. He
right.
Much
he was in the military, but who knows? He might have been he may have not seen any action. He might have been a cook there, you know.
He wasn't doing anything.
I would rather be a cook in Vietnam than see action.
Vietnam hadn't happened yet. He wasn't doing anything.
Is it not Vietnam? Yeah, you're right. This is pre-Vietnam. Vietnam was just getting started when this came out.
Yeah. So like he's just all he knows is from the TV and small town shit. And that's his idea of America. So of course, yeah, he come in here, he's like he thinks he's gonna have it easy. He can pick up any old lady on the street and have a great time because they're all rich because they live in, the Big Apple. So
but now he's just getting sucked off by guys in the movie theater who can't even pay him.
Yeah.
Get the pay first. What do you
also just saying that's fucking Bob Balaban.
Which is who?
I don't know.
Okay, so he's in a lot of like Wes Anderson movies and things like that.
Huh.
He's the if you've ever seen Moonrise Kingdom and they go off and they're starting to explain what the land is around there, the geography, he's that bald guy.
Oh yeah, okay.
This Bob fucking Balaban sucking dick in this movie. That's awesome.
Hell yeah, dude, that's awesome.
I didn't recognize him because I hadn't seen a lot of stuff that he had been in before this, but yeah, Bob Balaban, cool shit.
He honestly, even though it was in the 60s, he looks like a lot of Hendrix students I ran into back in the day in the college days that were
like, Rick Moranis vibe.
Yeah.
I got a total Rick Moranis vibe.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. The more things change, the more they stay the same. I feel like I've met
funny thing about high school girls.
Yeah, well, maybe not that one, but
all right.
This is very, very, very stylishly made and cut film, and you can tell it's influenced a lot. Like there's always been euphemisms presented by cutting away, but when he first sleeps with that older lady and he lays on the remote and then it just flashes back and forth between her
It's so
moaning. The
good.
TV channels rapidly changing faster and
It's
faster.
so good.
It's the literal jackpot, and it's like, yeah, this is
It's so
an
good.
all-timer sex scene.
I
It
keep
is.
saying that, but that's like my favorite scene in the whole fucking movie is that scene.
Yeah,
It's
because
so good.
it's been
So
copied
well.
to the point of parody. Even Monty Python makes fun of it. They have some thing where they show I don't know, these two people have sex. And there's like fireworks and a rocket launching off. And then
Yeah.
she comes over. She's like, "Are you just gonna show me videos all day night, or are we gonna have sex?"
Another one. I know this movie's a drama, but it has a lot of comedic bits to it.
No, there's some moments that are funny.
Like I think my favorite is whenever he goes to the pimp and he ends up being a religious fanatic. He's like,
Yeah,
get on
the
your
guy-
knees. And
I
I was
almost-
like, oh man, he's gonna try to assault this kid, and then it's Jesus. Pray with me. We must give him prayer.
But also, that's interesting that that iconography, that just the Jesus and him praying and stuff is enough to trigger his like religious trauma to the point where he's like spiraling out. That's like really where you start to pick up just how bad he had it back as a kid or something. Because, and also, I feel like we were just now really I mean, that's pretty early for the 60s to really start talking about these issues with suburban Christianity and like
well, so a lot of people still aren't.
oppressiveness.
A lot of audiences still aren't ready to hear about that.
I know. It's
I mean,
fucking awesome.
especially now we live in such a polarized, reactionary political time.
Right.
Where everything's got to be virtue signaled and commented upon ad nauseum.
Yeah. But it's just like,
So
it feels like the director pretty much is using this film to kind of almost as a form of therapy for himself, it feels like. And it makes the film way more powerful on rewatch, really thinking about that. Like,
No, absolutely. Christianity is all about guilt. That's what it is. It's about original sin. It's about guilt.
do you guys think, or what do you guys think was the ailment that Rizzo had?
So this is before we knew about AIDS.
That's what I was thinking.
I
feel like he's a closeted homosexual.
As a modern like viewer, it's easy to think that. I don't want to jump to that conclusion. I do think a lot of it is metaphorically what it is the poison of the city, and that lifestyle has infected him on a physical level and spiritual level. The spiritual has become physical, you know.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm part of that modern viewer that was like, this dude's got AIDS. Because
it could be. Why not?
It's multiple, definitely.
Well, the way that it progressed, though, and this is only because it's fresh on my mind because I watched a documentary about Pedro Zamora. I don't know if you guys know who that is.
Sounds familiar.
He was on like the 3rd season of The Real World, and he was an AIDS activist that passed away right after the last episode.
Why would you be an activist for AIDS?
Because AIDS rules. Sorry, I didn't mean that. No. And so I got to see kind of like progressively what was going on throughout his tenure with it until his death, and boy, it looked real similar to the shit that was going on with Rizzo.
Yeah,
it could be. He didn't get any lesions or anything,
but also like
I've never read it.
It's definitely more representative of the
city itself,
swallowing him whole. But
man,
also,
I would have loved to have seen him make it to Miami, man.
If they could have just probably survived the winter in somewhere warm, maybe he could have had a chance. If he could have gone to a doctor, you know.
Which he could have.
He refused.
Yeah, he could have, but like,
which is also why I think it might have been something to do with a disease he might think he has and might be ashamed about.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, he might have.
I thought I assumed it's because he had warrants or something out on him. Because he said
maybe that's it.
He said no doctors, no police. That's what he said.
Yeah,
Joe talked to him about that.
And then he also, but another big thing though is like, doesn't he kind of give Joe shit for selling blood? Or am I just like his?
I was thinking about the AIDS connection with blood, but again, I feel like that's me as a modern viewer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I don't think.
Sorry, guys.
I don't think Joe really wants to tell him how he got the money at first. Really, he's just like,
I think he made an assumption of him going. He's like, you went down the street, didn't you?
You said you were like on 49th. I thought that maybe was an implication of like
42nd is where he was sending them to fuck
42nd.
women.
Okay.
I don't know though. I don't know. I felt I might have.
Yeah.
I was watching this while I worked today. But yeah, no, I did have that full assumption, especially at the end when he's not able to move at all, and he's pissing on himself, and which is, man, Joe's so endearing in that scene. It's like he doesn't want to make a big deal out of it because he knows it would just fucking destroy his friend.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what I wanted to see is how aware do you think Joe is by the end of the movie of Rizzo's hell? Like, how do you think he's like just being nice and taking him down there because it's his last thing he wanted to do, or do you think he genuinely might have a chance down there?
I think he thinks that he might have a chance down there, but once he realizes that he's pissed himself, then he's like, "We'll see."
I think that's fair. I mean, I think um that Joe isn't blindsided, but he's blinded himself willingly to the possibility of this being potentially lethal. And because he's such a, bright-eyed optimist in so many ways, he's willfully ignorant of a lot of things. And I think he does think, maybe the warm air will do you good or something. Because he's stupid enough to think, well, I can just go and make it in New York City. Why not Miami? Because they each have the same dream. It's
The same grass is always greener shit.
Somewhere else will be better.
I like how
I did crack up. We did speak about movies. The mentality of people in his daydreams, in Rizzo's daydreams of being in Miami, he's still shooting dice.
I was just about to say that. It cracks me up. He's shooting dice and getting his shoes shined. Like, it's very poetic.
You know what it reminds me of, and this is not a bit. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of if you don't come from a background with a lot of money, getting a lot of money, it's like I almost don't know what to do with it. And this is going to sound like a joke, but it's not. In a lot of rap videos, especially like 2 Chainz or something, it's like this idea of being hood rich, and then you just have but you don't know what to do with the money.
Yeah.
There's songs about that. There's the Redneck Yacht Club.
The Redneck Yacht Club. Exactly. Rednecks do it, dude.
Yeah, dude. There's white trash with money, dude. My dad was friends with.
Oh yeah, how many oil rig workers are like 19 and then get that?
Those are just tweakers. Fucking oil rig worker. No, the fucking people that my dad used to work with, which like growing up, my dad didn't make shit for money, but then like, of course, right after I get out of the house, he's making tons of it.
Yeah, of course. Or he was just hiding it before.
Or very much so, very just hiding it. But there are points where like we would go to a cabin in the woods that apparently like one of the guys there who is very redneck owned like 250 acres in the middle of Stuttgart, but like his cabin was barely inhabitable. And like he spent more money on tractors and souping them up so he could just run shit over. Like you don't get out of that mindset just because you got the money.
No,
you can't take it out of anybody. You think I'm gonna give up the shit that I like doing if I start making money? No, I'm just gonna do more of it.
It depends on the person. Because if I was dropped $1 million right now, I would put a lot of it into a home that I don't have to pay off, just so I have a permanent residence I don't have to worry about.
Yeah, I'd buy if I got $1 million, I'd buy like 150 acres and throw a trailer on it, and then spend the rest of the money on stuff I could have fun with.
Putting it all on black, baby.
Yeah, parlay, dude. But yeah. The only thing about we were talking about how much Joe really thinks about Rizzo and how if his health and all that. I just think there might be something there more because you do get that actually pretty sad and dramatic moment where Rizzo's like sweating and says he's afraid because he can't walk anymore, and they use that close up to express this fear. That really kind of kicks you because he's always playing shit off, but there's just no hiding it at that point, and he's like actually starting to panic a little bit.
Dustin Hoffman, man, that's such a good role.
And so I think that really kind of spooked.
Back at these restrooms.
Yeah, that really spooked Joe in that moment. And so I think there might be something there, but also
You mean something romantic?
no, there's something like the idea like I'm taking him to Miami, but he might not. Like this might just be a nice gesture.
Right. No, and again, I don't know how conscious Joe is of that,
Yeah.
of the fact that he's dying. At some level he does know. But I think he is so used to repressing his emotions and just
Yeah.
presenting this happy-go-lucky facade.
Yeah.
That Casher, did you just use the bathroom? Did you just use the bathroom
Yeah, I had to piss
that
so
quick?
bad.
Wow,
Yeah,
that was impressive.
I had to piss so bad.
That was
gonna
that was
puke my
The
pants.
impressive.
opposite of Austin Powers.
Yeah,
Nah,
dude.
I'm a quick pooper peer.
Yeah, no, that's why we have you on this cast.
Didn't wash my hands.
Oh, you'd be right at home in this movie.
So
Yeah.
there's that.
Giuliani, why'd you have to clean up New York? Why we could still be getting these movies. Now we have
Clean up New York.
yeah, we all now we have his Joker.
Giuliani just pushed it into a different area.
Yeah.
Fucking clean up New York. Fucking cocksucking piece of shit. Sorry. Don't talk about Giuliani. I don't like him.
Yeah, no, not anyone else. Speaking of gay homophobia, stuff like that. My mom, well, she's always like, "Well, there weren't trans people back then." It's like
I was thinking the same
I
thing.
can show
and I
you
found that
fucking plenty of movies from this
There's
time
proof.
period, including this one, where a trans person is in the film. And
well,
it's just like,
it's because she grew up in Arkansas where you get your ass beat or worse
yeah,
if
right,
you try to be openly trans.
right.
That's why I thought in that movie because you've talked about your mom saying that just
Yeah.
to me personally and maybe on this podcast, and I thought about that
Yeah.
and just the way some people think that way.
You should introduce her into looking up what two spirits are, which is
Yeah.
Native American trans folks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know too much
called
about that.
two.
That's what they
spirits.
call them. Some people have tried to incorporate them into the acronym, and I'm like,
it's
too many.
But like it's yeah, basically like the story in a lot of native tribes, there's a tree that was split into two. Those two became man and woman, and then but there was also the stump that was left. That is the two spirit.
Oh, cool.
Do
not go. I thought you were gonna do something else.
No, I don't know what you thought I was gonna do.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it until after. I don't want to
Okay. Well, another interesting scene towards the end is where he goes up to that old man's hotel room, and the old man like wimps out of what he was wanting to do, and I don't think Joe wanted to go through with it anyway. So, but I think seeing the old man have such like a freak out over what he was planning to do and feel like he was doing something wrong, it like triggered Joe in a way that made him turn violent because he did need the money, but like up until this point he's been so
he hasn't been able to pull off the tough guy act.
like the opposite of assertive. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean he could have beat the shit out of Bob Balaban and got that watch off of him.
Right.
He didn't even have to beat the crap out of him. The guy he probably could have just taken it from him.
but I
also think that's because Bob Belichick or whatever you say, Ballinger,
Balaban.
He says something about my mother will kill me or something to that effect,
and more triggering fucking,
and it's more triggering for him because Balaban's character is probably what 20, maybe.
He's got to be
around there,
Hendrick's age.
Yeah, he could be a college student easily.
Yeah.
So living with his parent and having to explain that watch, which who knows if it would have got much money, maybe $5. Honestly, the saddest scene in this movie, I'm not even joking, is when he has to sell his radio.
That's such a good setup, though. Like the whole movie, he's listening to that radio and loves it, and then he can only get $5 for it, dude. That is so brutal.
Devastating.
It's
also, I don't know.
sad.
The movie does start me off with not liking that guy because if you play your phone music on public transport, just jump off.
It's a little different in that kind of public transport. He doesn't have a phone to look at, dude. Yeah, there's no headphones, and then also like he's not any worse than those military dudes yelling all the fucking time on the way there.
That's true. Better than that.
No, I immediately liked this guy off the bat.
No, he came off as someone that that whole where's the Joe Buck? Like that whole
Yeah.
scene, like that shit, it starts off like it's gonna be
Means
this
well.
lighthearted fucking comedy, and then it's like, I'm going to New York to fuck old ladies.
And he wants people to be impressed so bad.
Yeah.
He knows all of them are just looking at him like, you're doing what? Why?
Well,
Because
then
they
he's
know
like,
it's some quarter baked idea.
well, it's like he imagines himself sending those postcards, but he ends up ripping it away and throwing
Right.
it away.
Because he realizes, what am I saying?
like
What's the
what?
point?
Yeah, no one gives
And
a
this
shit.
guy, because it doesn't seem like he has any real relationships. He's what this guy worked with, the guy who the short order cook is gonna care.
I want
Yeah.
to know
That's all he has.
how much later after the assault of Anne he leaves.
He probably threw himself into the military right after that because he felt like maybe he needed to man up. That's my thought.
Yeah, and so it's like maybe when he came back, those are the only people that were still here, are people he'd worked with before.
Yeah,
Like,
because he
you can
comes back
build-
and his grandma was dead and she didn't
Yeah.
even tell him that she was dying or anything.
and it's like, I mean, you can bond pretty heavily with coworkers. A lot of, you bond and like, especially working at like a shitty diner.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
all go smoke this joint in the back of the diner type
Yeah.
revelry.
Let's go. You do shots in the walk-in. You know.
You guys need a line? Are you guys tired? You guys want a line of cocaine?
Yeah.
But anyway, when he's finally unleashes his anger and he beats that old man so he can get the money, I think it's because he was unable to hide the feelings he has inside, that because he sees himself in that old man who feels shame and repression and feels like he's doing the wrong thing for probably gay desires that he has himself, and so he couldn't help it at that point. And
No, it's externalizing his self-loathing.
yeah.
He doesn't know how to. I mean, for him to hate himself openly, he would have to admit that he has these thoughts and feelings.
That there's
Yeah.
something to hate.
That there's something to hate.
Yeah.
He can't do that because that's an admission of guilt.
Right.
So I mean, it's the same thing as like the Republican politicians who get caught trying to flirt with dudes in the airport bathroom, whoever that was. It's the same thing. We've heard this one before.
Yeah.
I did not have relations with that.
No, but yeah. And also the way he's shot walking around the city has been parodied so many times. Even the song that plays is used in
Yeah.
Borat and
The
stuff.
song is
like
iconic.
Elf, and like that shot where he's walking down the street and he's in a group of 100 people and he's the only one in focus. That scene has been used in 100 fucking movies. And honestly, even if it's parody or not, I always like that scene. Like, it's just a simple scene. I think it's even in Spider-Man 2, I think. But just like, I don't know.
If you've got like a New Yorkie movie, you're gonna parody that scene.
Yeah, it's that influential of a movie. But it's not an influential movie in the way that, like, when you watch it for the first time, you haven't seen it already. And like, there's some movies that you're told to watch because of what they influenced, and you've already seen so many influences of it that it doesn't really hit you on that first watch. I feel like there are some of those older movies I feel that way with. That's why I kind of understand when people go back and they're as an adult and they've never seen Star Wars and they watch the first Star Wars and they're not really that impressed at first, because it's kind of like that. You've seen so many things come after that, but this is not the case. This still very much is like its own thing, and not anything has really touched it in the same way, I feel.
Right, because everything that parodies I mean, not it, that's not the name of the movie, Elf, for instance, does not go in nearly as dark as direction.
Yeah.
It doesn't end up with Buddy crushing up candy cane and like snorting it off of some dude's like erection. That's not where the movie.
That'd be really sick, dude.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. But that's not where we're going. And
Yeah.
It's so interesting because this is a subversion of so many things that would later be exemplified by things taking stuff from the idyllic beginning first third of this movie without subverting it. You know what I mean? I feel like that was words.
Totally. No. Yeah.
Because this goes in such a dark place, and obviously they don't have all of the sexual themes in them.
I just wonder how much of a grasp audiences had on this film when it came out, because it was so ahead of its time. Obviously, there was a lot of acclaim, but like,
Yeah.
how much of this religious trauma and sexual trauma were people really willing to understand, or were they thinking more of like oh, this is just a fucked up society movie. Look, he had to suck dick or get his dick sucked, for money. Like, oh man, that's so sad.
Yeah.
I think and also this is a couple of comments I've seen. I'm looking here. It says on a budget of about 3 million, it made about 45 million. So
Yeah. Wow.
it was, and granted, this doesn't look like the most expensive movie to
On an
make.
X rating. That's
But
crazy.
on an X-ray, I think people were seeing this movie. Hoffman was big,
Yeah, he was.
That's one of the highest grossing movies domestically of all time. So this is it even 2 years after Graduate, year and change?
Yeah.
Looking so different, so much older. Jeez.
Yeah.
All-time performance, an all-time performance. To the point where even I feel like Rizzo, his character there's been other versions of the sleazy New Yorker, the con artist.
Yeah.
He set an archetype for that with the voice and everything and the mannerisms.
And I get so sick of that fucking factoid that's not even true, of where he's like, supposedly the "Hey, I'm walking here" was improvised to a real person that almost ran him over. That's not true. That person, they had hired a guy to be in a taxi.
Prove it.
Like, I don't know why that's
Prove
repeated
it.
so much.
Prove it.
Yeah, prove
Okay,
it.
maybe I'm wrong, but I've read into that was just not like a true.
Well, that's another thing that gets referenced a lot, and people don't even know what the reference is.
You're going to tell me that before every single movie I've ever seen in the movie theater, the fact that I get about Ratso saying, "I'm walking here," is not real?
Yeah, it's from a script. It's
This
in a
is-
movie.
This is a conspiracy for the ages.
Yeah.
This isn't a documentary?
This could very well disrupt the entire fabric of the cinematic
It's like,
universe.
that
Hey,
is
did you
crazy
guys
that-
know that in Lord of the Rings, when
Oh,
Aragorn kicks the
brother, I
helmet,
hate that so much.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
No, but like, it's crazy that line was so popular that I knew it just from it being said in like children's programming as a kid.
yeah, it's in Forrest Gump.
Oh, yeah.
It's like in all kinds of shit, and
It's
it's
weird.
Forrest
really
Chump.
cool.
It's
Really cool.
speaking of this movie, I've seen some things people say this movie's homophobic, and I don't know if I entirely agree.
I think this movie's homosexual.
I think this movie is depicting a homophobic society, which I
Yeah.
think is, and homophobic characters, which is different than a movie being homophobic.
Of
No,
course.
it's especially with the director being, part of
Right,
the
which immediately, and I think he came out around this time. I mean, I think he might have known about it.
But a big thing is like you're not seeing anything that is outwardly disparaging homosexuality in this movie. If anything, it's more of like a man trying to figure himself out on this.
Right,
Yeah, of
and
course.
it's sympathetic, like society puts us into this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because we didn't
it's
choose to be
just-
gay, so and we didn't choose this lifestyle in order to be ourselves. This is the only way we can be ourselves because we are oppressed.
I think it'd be homophobic if he was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm just gonna suck dicks because I just want to do that now. But instead, it's like he's forced into it, and then he realizes he might have a little pleasure from it, and then he's dealing with the things of his past. Yeah, people are saying
He's a very troubled man, and people need to understand that this is the 60s, and you can't just find an online community to talk to about these things, or
You're
IRL.
telling me in 1960s Texas, they weren't open to having gay men?
It's just crazy that people would think this movie is like homophobic just because a character uses a certain word in the movie doesn't reflect the feelings of the writer or the director. That's just
Yeah.
common media literacy. Like,
And also I think this is more leaning towards of being like a pro sexuality thing because he is just kind of experimenting and figuring out who he is, and it's a sense of the whole movie's about finding a sense of.
By the way, one thing we didn't mention, this was going to be an R-rated movie, and it got suggested by a psychiatrist or some expert to be X-rated because it thought it promotes homosexuality.
Well,
Because it
Back
really
up.
makes the lifestyle look appealing in this movie.
yeah, it's like, what the hell is X-rated about this movie? You don't see any like
Yeah, well, I don't know. When I see Bob Balaban washing his hands and
Yeah, Bob
spitting up,
Balaban said it's implied that he gives oral sex. I'm like, it's more than implied.
Yeah,
It's
you see more tits than anything
yeah,
during
dude,
that
there's
psychedelic sequence.
yeah,
But yeah,
oh,
if that's
whatever.
gay, I don't want to be straight.
Are you guys ready to talk about the actual film we're supposed to be doing for this podcast?
which is what
Dune 2.
I do want to talk about.
I need to see it again.
People that think
Dude.
this movie is homophobic are the same people that think that Paul Atreides is a
He's the
hero.
hero. Silence.
But I do want to talk about the final shot of this film actually got me this time. It
It's
actually
fucking
got me
beautiful.
choked up. It's a brilliant shot of cutting to the reflection of the palm trees going by, but it's already too late and he's already dead and it's all passing him by. That is a great, really sad, great way to end the film.
He got
And
his palm trees right before that though, because he got the last shirt that had palm trees on it. Which
yeah,
I
if I had a
thought
nickel for every Dustin Hoffman movie that ends with him on a bus with with it not going the way you wanted, I'd have 2 nickels.
yeah,
But
no, it's also really fucking powerful when he's just close his eyes. There's nothing else we can do. We're gonna be in Miami soon.
Yeah.
And you're just
Yeah,
like,
Jay, this movie's all about social alienation, not just sexually. Obviously, it spells it out for you. It talks about loneliness straight up.
everybody's talking
Imagine being
about
that jaded of a bus driver, but also, what else do you do?
what can you do? I mean, you drive to the hospital, I guess, but like,
Yeah, you're just driving to town. Like, well, we're going into the city anyway.
all those nosy blue-haired cunts looking back. Oh
what nosy
man.
that a guy died on
I'd be
the
so mad.
bus?
They just look like they're people who are like, yeah, talking shit the entire time. He probably overdosed. He probably overdosed. I can
Oh,
always see
that's not even close to what's going on.
that's exactly what it is. That he's
But
probably a drug addict and
the
a
best,
queer
the
drug
best,
addict.
the best scene in a movie where someone dies on public transportation is in Commando, where he snapped that guy's neck and he
Yeah.
closes his eyes and tells the stewardess he's dead tired. But no,
Commando
but
cast win.
no, but it is a very beautiful and tragic kind of ending. Like he couldn't
Mm.
make it to the promised land because really there is no promised land. Like he
I
would have
mean,
probably not been able to figure shit out in Miami either.
No, that's why the palm trees are reflections.
Yeah, exactly. But Joe was ready to change because he was like, you know what, I think I'm just gonna, get a normal job.
watching him throw away the boots
Yeah, he
was
throws
very
away his
cathartic.
outfit, he's ready to try
Very
and figure shit
cathartic,
out.
dude, because he was all about that outfit all film.
Yeah.
And then finally he's like, fuck it.
He stood up for it so bad that like he got heated and
He
was
got
ready to-
angry about that
Yeah.
outfit, man.
So
And so it's like hearing that he wants to, he's giving up, but also not giving up. He's gonna try to find success. I feel bad that Rizzo didn't make it.
yeah, really a really sad scene, but also a really funny scene is like they're obviously like so hungry and shit, but like at the party, he's like stuffing like a pound of salami
It
into
was
his
fun.
pocket. Dude.
Very
It's like
Napoleon
holy
Dynamite.
shit.
Calling unwanted attention.
Yeah,
I
and
get it.
it's like one of the people at the party even offers, she's like, you can go take a shower upstairs and shit, and he refuses and gets mad.
No, he's too much pride.
I would have taken a fucking
He
shower
needed a
and
shower. If any character
I would have
needs a
robbed the
shower,
fuck out of that girl afterwards.
yeah, it would have been the most satisfying thing in the world to watch Rizzo take a shower and clean off all that gunk because it is nasty.
And he had the opportunity, but he refused it because he was.
He's
so
not smart. He
into
could
his
have
lifestyle.
robbed that woman afterwards.
Yeah, I like that he didn't even look around. He was just checking all the pockets of the coats out front while still talking to that chick and Joe while they're walking down and shit. Like he doesn't even care at this point.
It's pretty good.
But yeah.
Do we think that Joe killed that old man? How do you think that
Yeah,
old man?
he's
Oh
dead.
yeah,
He's
because there is that last
dead.
shot where he's like strangling him with that.
Think it's heavily implied that he's
I think
dead.
it's just it's left up to the viewer purposely. I don't know.
Well, I'm right. I'm the right viewer. He's dead.
I don't.
I like to
it's
think
far.
that he injured him gravely snapped to his senses before he actually killed him. But for all we know, that guy died in the ambulance.
I think that's him killing his drive to want to be a hustler too.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. It's just the last traumatic event, the last nail in the coffin. Be like, I don't want this lifestyle anymore.
Yeah.
I've romanticized this lifestyle for myself. I don't even want to try it.
Yeah. Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, life before OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought at first I was like, maybe Parker would like this movie. And then I forgot about all the insane sexual trauma. I was like, no, I'm not showing her this movie. Like, it's intense. But
Yeah.
it strikes such a great balance though. So, power of editing, baby. Anyway, anything else to say about Midnight Cowboy?
Do you think Paul Atreides will bring peace to the universe?
Thanks for listening, everybody. Next week, I'm not sure. Next week we're figuring some stuff out. But if you want, I have a book I wrote called The Kids We Used to Be. I'll put it in the bio below. We also have a tie-in film. It's called Patrician's Guide to Kino. If you want a stupid little movie that ties into this series we have called The Harbor, it might be fun. For further viewing, we also have plenty more episodes. If you want to see a Dustin Hoffman talk, we have a graduate episode from our summer series. There's also a video essay about Asteroid City. And Scott does comedy. If you live around in Arkansas, come see him.
At Scott K Comedy on Instagram. This Friday, I'll be co-headlining Boston Mountain Brewing in Fayetteville. So, come up, say hi.
You want to play Fortnite with us? DM me.
Come play Fortnite with us. I will say this movie, as far as midnight movies we've covered on here, this movie is less homophobic than Midnight Express is racist.
Fair.
Go ahead.
So what's next?
If we can swing it, it will be Planet of the Apes. If we need to wait a little bit, it will be something else.
What's next is Kino.
That's right. You heard it from Scott. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.